Okay, ladies and gentlemen, good day all. My name is Mukhtar Aliyu. So I'm going to introduce ourselves to introduction to biochemistry, and so now I'm starting with the definition of biochemistry. What is biochemistry? Biochemistry is coined by two words, bio and chemistry. So when we said biochemistry, it means the chemistry of life. So the word biochemistry means the chemistry of living beings or the chemistry of life. So generally, ladies and gentlemen, we need to understand life itself, or all living organisms are made up of compounds, and this compound can be organic or inorganic. So this biochemistry is just trying to talk about how those compounds are produced in the body, where they are produced, what they do in the body, that is their functions, and how they are converted to another important substances, and also how they are converted to the wastes and at the end to be excreted in the body. So biochemistry is just trying to look at all those things. So biochemistry is the study of chemistry of life. It's just trying to reveal or unravel how this chemical compound in the living organisms behave, how do they produce, and how essentials and importance are in our life. So biochemistry is the chemistry of life. And one thing that I want you to understand is, as I said, these chemical compounds are the building blocks of all living organisms. So remember, cell is the basic and the functional structure of all living organisms. So life below cell, remember the cellular theory, anything below cell do not subcell life. So what is that cell? What constitutes that cell? So remember, from the organization level of life, you started from chemical level, cellular level, tissue levels, organ levels, and then you have complete organisms. So now what I wanted to say here is that chemical level that we are talking about is just trying to give us an idea on how chemical compound constitute to produce the cell itself. Let me just give you insight how life actually formed. It started from carbon, nitrogen, sulfur, hydrogen, and these elements constitute to produce a compound, and this compound produce monomers, and these monomers like amino acids, fatty acid, and glycerol, nucleotides, glucose are the one that constitutes to produce what you call macromolecules, and these macromolecules produce what you call supramolecular complexes, and the supramolecular complexes of course produce the organelles of the cell. An example of the organelles of the cells, we have mitochondria, nucleus, we have cytoplasms, and the rest. So these organelles of the cells are produced by the supramolecular complexes, which of course produced from macromolecules. So, and of course, the organelles of the cells are the heart of the cell. So, if there is, assuming now you have a cell and you remove the nucleus of that cell, will it survive? No. Assuming also in the cells you remove the mitochondria of the cells, that is for those cells that have mitochondria. Remember that we have some cells that do not have mitochondria. So if you remove the mitochondria from the cells containing mitochondria, will that cell survive? No. Capital no, it will not survive. So now I want you to understand that the basics of life is chemical compound. So, and let me tell you this, nobody will give you, that is why you see that biochemistry is integrated to all medical and life sciences. Why? Because if you didn't understand biochemistry, you will not have a full understanding of how life it is. So that is why biochemistry is very, very essential in life and medical sciences. Okay, life in biochemistry, that is point of view. In living organisms, there are thousands of hundreds of biochemical reactions and biochemical processes that are taking place. And these thousands of compounds are occurring in subcellular organelles of the cell in an organized manner. There are some reactions that they are specific to take place in the mitochondria. Some are taking place in the nucleus, some are taking place in the cytoplasm, some are taking place in the ribosomes, lysosomes, and some are taking place in the Golgi apparatus. So that is why it is very, very essential if you are trying to understand the aspect of biochemistry to understand where a biomolecule is produced, where it carry out its functions, its role in the system. Is it work where it produce, or it works somewhere else, or it works by the near neighboring cells. So all these things are very, very important in biochemistry. There are thousands of reactions, there are thousands of biomolecules, there are thousands of biochemical reactions that are taking place in a living system in every minute. And these reactions are taking place at subcellular organelles of that particular cell. So try to understand if we have a particular reaction, understand where is that reaction taking place in the cell. Is it in the mitochondria? So it's very, very, very important. Then biochemistry is a branch of life sciences which deals with the study of biochemical reactions and the processes. And these biochemistry or biochemical reactions are occurring in living cells of organisms. So it is taking place in living cells, not in organelles. So one very important thing that we need to understand, biochemistry, all area of biochemistry rely on cells. Yeah. So branches of biochemistry. We are starting with medical biochemistry. What is medical biochemistry? Medical biochemistry deals with the chemical basis of human body, and we have like clinical biochemistry. Clinical biochemistry deals with clinical diseases, pathological conditions of human body. Of course, there we have some diseases that are actually um, as a result of accumulation of a particular chemical compound, or maybe as a result of low amount of that particular chemical compound in the body. So studying those area of biochemistry is what you call clinical biochemistry. Let me just give ourselves an example of some of the biomolecules that um, their increase or their decrease may lead to disease conditions in the human body. Let's say, let's take an example of adrenaline. Adrenaline is a biomolecule, is a compound that if it produced in high amount, it causes an anxiety and other a lot of things like that. And if you have low level of that adrenaline, of course there must be also a problem for that. So that is why, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted us to understand that biochemistry is very, very important in the clinical aspect, because as I said, there are some biomolecules that if their level increases in the blood, it leads to disease, and if it decreases, it leads to disease. Let me give another example. Let's take example of glucose. If glucose level is very high in the blood, the conditions is called hyperglycemia, which may subsequently lead to diabetes. And if that glucose level is very low in the blood, the conditions is called hypoglycemia. So understand this. So those area of biochemistry is considered as clinical biochemistry. And this clinical biochemistry, it supports the diagnosis, therapy, and research of the medical field. Of course, yeah, if you want to, when we say diagnosis, that is to test the presence or absence of the disease. So if you want to know whether somebody is diabetic, of course you will take the blood as a sample. When you take the blood sample, you will take the level, you will check the level of the glucose. If the glucose level is above normal, it means that there is problem, and if it is below, it means that there is also a problem. And of course, in the area of the clinical biochemistry, we have also, it also included the therapy. The therapy here is, of course, there are some biomolecules that if you block their activities, if you block their role, the disease conditions may stop. So, of course, with the knowledge of biochemistry, because we are trying to understand the aspect of biomolecules, let me just give us examples of the diabetics condition and its therapy. We know that when we have the problem of diabetics is actually as a result of insufficient production of insulin by the body. So if our body is producing insufficient insulin in the body, yes, of course, through a clinical biochemistry, you can now think of a way of supplementing the body with the insulin so that the body of the diabetic patient will be normal. Like, for example, when we are talking about insulin injection, who came with this idea? Of course, is biochemist. They first understand that the problem of diabetes is due to the increase in glucose level, and what causes that is insulin deficiency. Then now the scientists start thinking of how the insulin will be produced. Of course, now we are producing recombinant insulin in pharmaceutical industry, and once you are injected, that is fine and good, the blood glucose level in the body will be nearly normal. Then we can also think of research. We can do research in clinical biochemistry. When we say research, maybe if there is a disease condition, like for example, let's say as of recent we have a disease called the pandemic disease, which is coronavirus. Yeah, of course, the area of research of knowing even what causes the coronavirus, what is there in the coronavirus that causes the pathogenesis of the disease, the receptor on the surface of the virus that binds to the surface of angiotensin converting enzymes receptor is also the aspect of biochemistry. So clinical biochemistry is very, very important in diagnosis, therapy, and research. Okay, then another branch of chemistry, biochemistry, we have bacterial biochemistry. So we have, of course, biochemistry in bacteria. Like for example, there are some products that we only produce them using bacteria. Even the insulin that I just mentioned, we use recombinant DNA technology to incorporate the gene that is responsible for producing insulin into the bacterial cell, and the bacterial cell will now serve as a machinery in expressing and producing the insulin. We also have plant biochemistry, which is with the plant, we have animal, and also we have industrial biochemistry. Industrial biochemistry, it deals with the productions of products in the industrial scales involved with microorganisms. You can use microorganisms, like for example, now if you want to produce, let's say, let me just say a drug, a drug, let's say oxytocin. We have oxytocin injection. So how do you produce that oxytocin? The production of oxytocin using microorganisms in the industrial scale is a typical examples of industrial biochemistry. Then the next thing that you are going to look at is historical development of biochemistry, but I'm going to stop here.